Welcome to Fear No Evil, where the evil I speak about is child sexual abuse, where Psalms 23 is my foundational scripture, and where the Lord is my shepherd at all times. And I'm going to read Psalms 23 for those who have never heard the Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My enemies are not people, I have learned in life. However, I do know that people are used to either do good or to do evil. I can choose to do good or I can choose to do evil. Everybody has that choice. So I know that when the LGBT comes at me with their anger, I understand if they're child sexual abuse survivors where that anger comes from. I also understand their fear in being labeled as molesters or pedophiles. Now, as I've said, there are people out there who do the research. That may be the conclusion. I really don't know. And I'm not willing to take my research that far. My research and my assertion goes to that homosexuality could possibly be a manifestation of child sexual abuse. Now, we don't really know because they don't allow the studies to go out there. If they would allow the studies out there and have some kind of debate with people who can really do a debate and not these fake scientists and researchers and activists, then maybe we could get somewhere with child sexual abuse. Now, my goal, whenever I do a video, I try to have a goal. My goal is the target child. And I started to do that a little bit, but I'm always sidetracked by some of these arguments, these baseless arguments that people put out there that I have to just disavow because they're not true. So I believe that we said that the sexual offender is able to garner access to the children. Once they do that, their victim selection and recruitment are next. And this is the exact area where researchers state children who are homosexual are selected and more prone to sexual abuse because they are homosexual. The thinking has promoted education in homosexuality for children as young as kindergarten. Obviously, if you think that being gay is that you're born that way and that you have the research to support that, which they don't, but let's pretend that they do, then it would make sense that you would go back and try to help children understand what's going on. But when you have child sexual abuse survivors within the LGBT community and you can't find a specific gay gene, you can't promote a biological cause for homosexuality. It just doesn't make sense. There's not even any other area of science could you even do that. The fact that we're even allowing this in America, where we're supposed to be educated, is really unbelievable to me. Because as far as our knowledge of sexual abuse is concerned, although there's been more done in the research since, I would say, the 50s, the 70s, and the 80s, there's even a little bit more research. However, we are still in like the elementary playground of even understanding what child sexual abuse is and what it does to children and how that affects them as adults and why people are affected differently. You can have two siblings who are sexually abused. They're not going to manifest the same behaviors. They're going to interpret that experience in two totally different ways. And I almost believe that as many as survivors that we have that many plans of recovery. Because I don't know of any survivors who have walked the same walk and who go through exactly the same thing to recover. We may feel the same emotions, but we don't, the way we get through those emotions and those memories and repression and all that stuff is very individual. And that's why it's important for other sexual abuse survivors to talk to other sexual abuse survivors, because you may do something that works for me. I may do something that works for you. We all learn from each other. Now, this thing that happens with the children and with the research is that the childhood sexual abuse conflicts with such a finding because there is no prototypical victim of child sexual abuse. Any child may be victimized. However, children who exhibit outward characteristics of low self-esteem and lack confidence, many children suffer from low self-esteem and lack confidence, especially today. Many children who are bullied can find a sympathetic and understanding ear, and the sexual offender that is often not offered or paid attention to in school. I've seen this over and over again with bullying in school, and I am a very big advocate of no bullying in school. But what I find very disturbing and dysfunctional with school is that the bully is the one who's trying to help other people not bully, but they don't get rid of their own bullying characteristics, whether it be the child or the teacher. There's a lot of bullies in school right now, but they're the same ones that are going to teach other people about bullying. Where do we get this mentality? If you haven't been sexually abused, how are you going to teach somebody else about it if they've already been through it? I don't care how many degrees you have. As I've said before, all you can bring is some book knowledge. Any survivor can pick up a book and read about child sexual abuse. What they really need are real survivors who have really gone through it and come out on the other side. We need new books. We need new authors. We need new people talking about this, writing books, doing research. But unfortunately, unless you line up with mainstream thinking, what you may think, they try to silence. But the child sexual abuse survivor who has come out of silence, you're not putting them back in there. And that's where the LGBT make a mistake. You cannot silence all the sexual abuse survivors out here. You can silence the Christians. A Christian may even still be a sexual abuse survivor. Just because you may silence the Christian part of that person, that doesn't mean that you silence the other part of that person. Now, you can silence the part of me about doing scripture and Leviticus and all this other stuff. Where you can silence me is the child sexual abuse studies. I know this, and they know this, and that's why a lot of my channels are left alone. Now, if I wanted to go full-born, go into the Bible and go into all this, trust me, my channel would be shut down in a minute. I don't have to do that. That's not the area that the Lord has given to me. He gave me the area of child sexual abuse. I also happen to be a Christian. Now, I'm not going to push my Christian views on sexual abuse survivors. Why? It doesn't work. We're already blaming God for the abuse. Do you really think we need a Christian coming quoting scripture? As many Christians do, that don't help. Joyce Meyer, Beth Moore, Paula White, all sexual abuse survivors. Their books haven't helped me one bit, and they're supposed to be Christians. So don't sit there and tell me that just because you're a Christian, you know what you're talking about, because you don't. And don't tell me just because you're a scientist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever ologist you want to be, tell me you know all about this, because it's not true. There is no prototypical victim of child sexual abuse. There are only characteristics that the child may display that may make them the target of a perpetrator of child sexual abuse. Now, those characteristics, they can be embedded in someone who later on identifies as homosexual, and someone who doesn't identify as homosexual. So the LGBT, let's debunk that argument. You're not sexually abused if you even admit that you are, because you were gay or born gay. It doesn't fit with the statistics of the target child. Any child. any child.